Human Janitor touched a forbidden blade. Then every ancient weapon pointed north and screamed king. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The Intergalactic Museum of Warfare and Peace stood as a marvel of engineering and diplomacy, floating in the neutral space between the 7 major galactic powers. Here, amid the gleaming halls filled with artifacts from 1,000 civilizations, Tyler Grant pushed his mop across the polished floor. Section 47C needs cleaning again. Human, buzzed the mechanical voice of Curator Velex through Tyler's earpiece. The Tarn'eth administrator had a particular disdain for humans, considering them barely evolved enough to handle the sophisticated security systems of the museum. On my way, Tyler replied, suppressing a sigh. At 34, he hadn't imagined his life would involve cleaning alien vomit off priceless artifacts. But after the Earth Proxima War left him without family or prospects, the janitorial position at the museum had been a lifeline. The pay was decent, and it came with a small living pod in the staff quarters. Most importantly, it allowed him to be surrounded by history, even if he was only permitted to clean it, never touch it. Section 47C housed the most dangerous weapons ever created, artifacts so powerful they required special containment fields and round-the-clock monitoring. As Tyler wheeled his cleaning cart through the biometric scanners, he caught his reflection in the glass. His brown hair was flecked with premature gray, and fatigue lines etched his once youthful face. The standard-issue gray jumpsuit with "Maintenance" emblazoned across the back completed the picture of insignificance. The weapon displays in Section 47C were particularly impressive today. A special exhibition had brought together legendary blades from across the galaxy, ceremonial daggers from the reptilian saurians, phase-shifting swords from the crystalline lumina, and even the dreaded nerve-severing whips of the gaseous aerivores. Human, be particularly careful around the new exhibit, Velex's voice crackled. The Galactic Council has finally allowed the display of the Andoran blade. Do not go within 3 meters of its containment field. Tyler nodded, though no one was watching. The Andoran blade was something of a legend even among the museum staff. An ancient weapon said to choose its wielder through some form of consciousness that science had never been able to explain. It had reportedly been dormant for 10,000 years, ever since the fall of the Andoran Empire. As Tyler mopped around the displays, a commotion from the neighboring hall caught his attention. A group of Zavarian diplomats, their translucent bodies glowing with bioluminescent patterns indicating agitation, were arguing loudly with a security officer. Is it not enough that humans destroyed our colony moon? Now they're allowed to handle our sacred artifacts? The lead Zavarian bellowed, its body pulsing bright red with anger. The security officer, a stoic Barosian with 4 arms crossed defensively across his armored chest, stood his ground. The human is simply maintenance staff, Ambassador Zex. He has no access to the artifacts themselves. Tyler kept his head down, continuing his work. Since humanity's desperate use of antimatter bombs during the Proxima conflict, many species viewed humans as dangerously unpredictable. The fact that the bombs had been a last resort against overwhelming odds didn't matter to those who lost homes or loved ones in the fallout. The argument escalated, drawing more security personnel. In the commotion, a young Zavarian diplomat broke away from the group, dashing toward Tyler with alarming speed. You think you're worthy to be near these weapons, human? The diplomat hissed, his body flashing dangerous patterns of blue and purple. Before Tyler could react, the Zavarian slammed into him with surprising force, sending both of them tumbling toward the displays. Tyler felt his back hit something hard, a control panel. Alarms blared instantly as the containment field around the Andoran blade flickered. The security system announced a critical failure, and to Tyler's horror, the ancient weapon, a sleek, curved blade with inscriptions that seemed to glow from within, began to fall from its mount. Pure instinct took over. Tyler lunged forward, hand outstretched to catch the priceless artifact before it could shatter on the floor. His fingers closed around the hilt just centimeters from the ground. The moment his skin made contact with the blade, the world stopped. A deafening silence fell over the museum as every light dimmed to nothing. Then, in a moment that would be recorded and analyzed by xenohistorians for centuries to come, every weapon in Section 47C, over 3,000 artifacts from 100 different civilizations, shifted in their displays. Like compass needles finding magnetic north, they all pointed directly at Tyler. And then came the sound, not physical, but somehow in the minds of every being present. A resonant, ancient voice that spoke a single word in a language no living being had heard for millennia, yet everyone understood perfectly. King. The Zavarian diplomat backed away, his bioluminescence fading to a terrified pale blue. The security officers froze, their training offering no protocol for this situation. And Tyler stood paralyzed, the Andoran blade in his hand feeling impossibly light, as if it weighed nothing at all. "What?" he began, but the blade suddenly pulsed with energy. Symbols along its length, dormant for 10,000 years, began to glow with an ethereal blue light. Knowledge flooded Tyler's mind, knowledge of the blade, of its creation, of its purpose. "This is impossible," Curator Velex said, having rushed to the section when the alarms triggered. "The Andoran blade chooses only those of royal Andoran blood. The Andarans have been extinct for 10 millennia. Tyler stared at the blade, feeling an impossible connection forming. "I think it's changing the rules," he said, his voice sounding strange even to his own ears. Security officers surrounded him, weapons drawn but hesitant to approach. The blade's glow intensified, and suddenly every screen in the museum displayed the same message in the ancient Andoran script, translated automatically into all galactic standard languages. "The dormancy is ended. The King of Blades rises when the stars align. The final war approaches. Put it down, human," ordered the chief of security, a massive Cronin whose exoskeleton clicked nervously. "Put it down now." Tyler tried to comply, but the blade seemed fused to his hand. "I can't," he said, panic rising in his voice. "It won't let me go." The curator stepped forward cautiously. "The legends say the Andoran blade binds itself to its chosen wielder. If the blade has truly awakened and chosen you." Velex's multiple eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in Torrance. "This changes everything we know about human evolutionary history." Before anyone could respond, the museum's defensive systems activated without warning. Massive shield doors began to close throughout the facility, security fields activated, and the museum's AI announced, "External threat detected. Lockdown protocols engaged." Through the observation windows, Tyler could see warships appearing in the space surrounding the museum, vessels bearing the insignia of the Valoth Imperium, the most aggressive expansion force in the galaxy. "They're early," whispered Velex. The intelligence reports said the Valoth invasion fleet was still months away. "Invasion fleet?" Tyler asked, the blade in his hand humming with energy as if responding to the threat. The chief of security turned to his subordinates. "Evacuate all civilians to the emergency shelters. This is not a drill." To Tyler and Velex, he added, "The Galactic Council has been tracking Valoth movements for months. They've been massing forces, apparently planning a full-scale invasion of Council space. But they weren't supposed to be ready yet." The museum shuddered as the first energy blast struck its outer shields. The facility had been built to withstand attack. It housed too many dangerous artifacts to be left vulnerable, but it had never been tested against a full military assault. "They must have detected the blade's awakening," Velex said, antennae twitching nervously. "The Valoth have an ancient prophecy about the return of the Weapon Kings. They believe whoever controls these weapons controls the fate of the galaxy." Tyler looked down at the blade, still glowing in his hand. "Why me? I'm nobody, just a janitor." A new voice answered, a human voice. "Perhaps that's exactly why." Tyler turned to see an elderly human woman approaching, leaning on an ornate staff. He recognized her as Dr. Elena Barrett, the only human curator at the museum, a renowned expert in ancient weaponry. "The Andoran blade was never meant for those who seek power," she explained. eyes fixed on the glowing weapon. According to the oldest texts, it chooses those who would protect rather than conquer, those who understand the true weight of wielding power. Another blast rocked the museum. The security chief's communicator buzzed with urgent messages. The shields are failing in sectors 12 through 17, he reported grimly. We have less than 20 minutes before breach. Dr. Barrett stepped closer to Tyler, her aged face solemn. Mr. Grant, I've studied the Andoran prophecies my entire life. The blade doesn't just choose a wielder, it transforms them. The legends say the Chosen One gains access to all the knowledge and abilities of the ancient Andoran warrior caste. Tyler felt the truth of her words resonating through the connection with the blade. Images flashed through his mind. Combat techniques, strategic knowledge, the secrets of weapons long forgotten. The museum houses the largest collection of Andoran artifacts in the galaxy, Dr. Barrett continued. Most are considered decorative or ceremonial, but if the legends are true. She glanced meaningfully at the weapons still pointing at Tyler like silent sentinels acknowledging their king. Understanding dawned on Tyler. You think I can use them? All of them. Another explosion, closer this time. The lights flickered. I think, Dr. Barrett said carefully, that the blade chose you for a reason. And I think that reason just arrived on our doorstep. The security chief approached, his exoskeleton now fully deployed in combat mode. Human, if you have any special connection to these weapons, now would be the time to explore it. We have civilians from 87 different species in this museum, and the Valoth don't take prisoners. Tyler looked around at the faces watching him, some fearful, some hopeful, some skeptical. He was just a janitor, a nobody who cleaned up other people's messes. But the blade in his hand sang with power and purpose, and for the first time since the war that had taken everything from him, Tyler felt like he might be part of something greater. What do I need to do? He asked. Dr. Barrett gestured to the surrounding artifacts. Connect with them. The blade is the key. It opens the way to all Andoran technology. If the legends are true, these weapons will respond to you now. Tyler closed his eyes, focusing on the connection he felt with the blade. Its consciousness touched his mind again, ancient and powerful, and through it, he sensed the other artifacts in the room, not just as objects, but as extensions of will and purpose. I can feel them, he whispered, opening his eyes. All of them. Around the room, the ancient weapons began to glow with the same ethereal blue light as the blade. One by one, their containment fields deactivated as they acknowledged their new master. The museum's AI voice announced, "Warning, multiple containment breaches detected. Security protocol overridden by Andoran Prime Authority." Dr. Barrett smiled. "The system recognizes you as Andoran royalty." Interesting. The security chief was less impressed with the metaphysical implications. "Can you use these weapons to defend the museum or not?" he demanded. In answer, Tyler approached a display containing what appeared to be a simple circlet of metal. As his hand neared it, the circlet rose from its mount and floated toward him, expanding to fit over his head. The moment it settled on his brow, Tyler's perception exploded outward. He could suddenly see the entire museum, every corridor and chamber, every being within its walls, and the Valoth warships surrounding them. "There are 26 warships," he reported, his voice strangely calm. "They've deployed boarding parties at 7 breach points. 342 Valoth soldiers total." He turned to the security chief. "Your forces are outnumbered 6-1. The chief's exoskeleton clicked in alarm. "How could you possibly know that?" Tyler tapped the circlet. "Tactical crown of General Vex, last defender of Andera Prime. It sees all threats within its domain." He turned to another display, where a set of ornate gauntlets floated free of their mount. As they attached themselves to his hands, energy crackled between his fingers. And these should help even the odds. Dr. Barrett watched in fascination. The gauntlets of Andoran battle mages. They channel the wielder's bioelectric field into concentrated energy. Tyler nodded, feeling the power building in his palms. "I know exactly what they do, and how to use them." He turned to the security chief. Get your people into defensive positions around the civilian shelters. I'll handle the boarding parties. The chief hesitated. You? Alone? Not alone, Tyler said, as more artifacts detached from their displays and attached themselves to his body. A breastplate that molded itself to his chest, greaves that clasped around his legs, a cloak that settled on his shoulders and seemed to bend light around its edges. The king never fights alone. Through the tactical crown, Tyler could see the Valoth boarding parties burning through the museum's outer doors. They were reptilian humanoids, their bodies covered in organic armor, wielding energy weapons that pulsed with destructive force. They're almost through, he warned. Everyone needs to get to safety now. As the others retreated, Dr. Barrett lingered a moment longer. Tyler, she said, her academic reserve giving way to genuine concern. The legends say the transformation is irreversible. If you do this, there's no going back to who you were. Tyler looked down at his janitorial uniform, now mostly covered by ancient Andoran battle armor. He thought about his life since the war, the loneliness, the insignificance, the daily reminders of humanity's precarious place in the galactic order. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, he said quietly. Dr. Barrett nodded in understanding and hurried after the others, leaving Tyler alone in the weapon hall as the Valoth boarding parties breached the final barriers. Through the tactical crown, Tyler watched as the first group of Valoth warriors entered the museum, their movements precise and practiced. They were heading directly for Section 47C, obviously aware of the blade's significance. Tyler stepped into the shadows, the Andoran cloak bending light around him. The blade in his hand pulsed with anticipation, and knowledge flooded his mind. Combat techniques perfected over thousands of years, strategies developed by the greatest Andoran generals, the exact weak points in Valoth organic armor. As the first Valoth squad rounded the corner into the weapon hall, Tyler felt a strange calm settle over him. He was no longer Tyler Grant, human janitor and survivor of a forgotten war. He was something else now, something ancient and powerful, reborn in a time of need. Let's see if I'm worthy of the title, he whispered to the blade, and stepped out to meet his destiny. The lead Valoth warriors spotted him immediately, reptilian eyes widening at the sight of the glowing Andoran artifacts covering Tyler's body. The human holds the blade, the warrior hissed in its native tongue, which Tyler somehow understood perfectly. Take it alive if possible. As the squad raised their weapons, Tyler felt the knowledge of the ancients guiding his movements. The gauntlets on his hands flared with blue energy as he thrust his palm forward, releasing a concentrated blast that struck the lead warrior square in the chest. The Valotha's organic armor sizzled and cracked, and the warrior flew backward, crashing into his comrades. Tyler moved with impossible speed, the Andoran armor enhancing his natural abilities. The blade sang through the air, cutting through Valoth energy weapons as if they were made of paper. When a warrior managed to fire, the energy bolt seemed to bend around Tyler, diverted by the cloak's defensive field. "Pull back," shouted the Valoth commander. "Concentrate fire." As multiple energy weapons targeted him, Tyler raised his left gauntlet. A shimmering shield of blue energy expanded outward, absorbing the blasts. With his right hand, he touched one of the symbols on his breastplate. Instantly, a dozen small spheres detached from the armor and shot toward the Valoth warriors, expanding into energy nets that entangled and immobilized them. Through the tactical crown, Tyler could see more boarding parties converging on his position. The Valoth were adapting their strategy, bringing in heavier weapons and elite warriors. Tyler touched another symbol on his armor, and the floor beneath him glowed with Andoran script. A holographic display appeared, showing the museum's layout. He placed his hand on a junction point, and ancient Andoran defense systems, dormant for millennia and unknown even to the museum's builders, activated. Force fields sprang to life, containment protocols engaged, and automated security measures deployed, buying precious time for the civilians to reach the shelters. As he prepared to face the next wave of Valoth warriors, Tyler felt the blade's consciousness touch his mind again. Images flowed into his awareness, not of battle this time, but of history. He saw the fall of the Andoran civilization, brought down not by external enemies, but by their own weapon technology, grown too powerful to control. He saw the last Andoran king, sealing away the most dangerous artifacts and encoding them to awaken only when needed most. And he saw the truth behind the legends, that the Andarans had not gone extinct but had hidden themselves among other species, abandoning their warlike past and changing their very biology over generations to ensure their weapons could never be used again. Unless the need was great enough. Unless the stars aligned. Tyler gasped as the final piece fell into place. "That's why the blade chose me," he whispered. "I'm Andoran." The tactical crown confirmed his realization, mapping his genetic structure and highlighting sequences that had remained dormant in his DNA for thousands of years, sequences now awakening in response to the blade. A massive explosion rocked the museum as the Valoth deployed heavy artillery against the structure. The shields were failing, and Tyler knew they were running out of time. Through the crown, he located the security chief and established communication. "The civilians?" "Secured in the inner shelters," came the reply. "But the Valoth have disabled our communications array. We can't call for help." Tyler's mind raced through possibilities, accessing the knowledge of ancient Andoran strategists. "There's another way," he said, his gaze falling on a small, unassuming artifact in a nearby display, a crystal sphere that glowed faintly blue in response to his presence. "The Harmony Sphere," he murmured, reaching out to it. The sphere floated to his hand, its glow intensifying. "It can amplify and project thoughts across vast distances." "To whom?" the security chief asked. "The nearest Galactic Council forces are hours away." Tyler closed his eyes, concentrating on the sphere. "Not Council forces. Others like me." As he focused his will through the ancient artifact, Tyler felt his consciousness expanding outward, touching minds across the galaxy. Humans with dormant Andoran DNA, living ordinary lives, unaware of their heritage. The sphere translated his desperate plea into pure emotion and need, calling to the blood they all shared. Then he turned his attention back to the immediate threat. The Valoth forces were regrouping for a final push, bringing their most elite warriors and heaviest weapons to bear. Through the tactical crown, Tyler could see their commander, a massive Valoth covered in ceremonial armor, directing the assault. "Time to end this," Tyler said, the Andoran artifacts pulsing in agreement. He moved through the museum with supernatural speed, the cloak rendering him nearly invisible, the tactical crown revealing every enemy position. When he encountered Valoth warriors, the ancient weapons responded to his will with devastating efficiency. Energy blasts from his gauntlets disabled their weapons, while the blade cut through their defenses with ease. Finally, he reached the central atrium, where the Valoth commander had established a forward base. Dozens of elite warriors surrounded their leader, who wore an ornate helmet adorned with the skulls of fallen enemies. "I know you're there, Blade Wielder," the commander called out, his voice a guttural rumble. "The prophecy said you would come, but our seers have seen further than yours, beyond your ascension to your fall." Tyler remained hidden, studying the situation through the tactical crown. The commander wore technology that could potentially detect the Andoran cloak's energy signature. A direct confrontation would put the sheltered civilians at risk. "You don't have to do this," Tyler called out, his voice echoing from multiple directions thanks to the acoustic properties of his armor. "Take your forces and leave. The blade has chosen, and the weapons have acknowledged their king." This battle was decided 10,000 years ago. The Valoth commander laughed, a sound like stones grinding together. "Perhaps, but even kings can die." With frightening speed, the commander activated a device on his wrist. A pulse of energy swept through the atrium, momentarily disrupting the Andoran cloak's field. Tyler found himself visible, 30 meters from the Valoth forces. "There!" the commander roared, and his warriors opened fire. Tyler raised his shield gauntlet, but the combined firepower was too great. The energy field flickered and failed, and a blast caught him in the shoulder, sending him crashing into a display case. Pain lanced through his body, but the Andoran armor was already responding, medical systems activating to stabilize his condition. The blade pulsed in his hand, urging him to rise. As the Valoth closed in for the kill, the museum shuddered again, but not from an attack. Through the tactical crown, Tyler detected new ships arriving, their energy signatures unfamiliar, yet somehow resonant with his own. The massive observation windows of the atrium revealed the space battle unfolding outside. Sleek vessels of unknown design had appeared, engaging the Valoth warships with weapons that seemed to bend the very fabric of space. "Impossible," breathed the Valoth commander. "The Andarans are extinct." Tyler smiled through the pain. Apparently not. His call through the Harmony Sphere had reached those with Andoran blood, humans who had lived their lives never knowing their true heritage, but who carried within them the potential to connect with the ancient technology. And some, it seemed, had access to ships. Using the momentary distraction, Tyler activated the final systems in his armor. Energy coursed through the ancient metal, and symbols etched into every piece blazed with blue fire. The blade in his hand became a channel for power that had not been unleashed for 10,000 years. Tyler rose to his feet, the Andoran artifacts now fully awakened and synchronized with his transformed biology. He was no longer simply wearing the armor. He had become one with it, as the ancient kings had been. Last chance, he offered the Valoth commander. Surrender. The commander's response was to fire his personal weapon, a devastating energy cannon that could reduce a being to component atoms. The blast struck Tyler squarely in the chest, and did nothing. The Andoran armor absorbed the energy completely, ancient systems processing and redirecting the power. Tyler felt it flow through him, adding to his strength rather than harming him. The Valoth warriors backed away, reptilian faces showing fear for the first time. Their commander stood his ground, but even he seemed shaken. "The prophecy," the commander hissed. "It is true. The King of Blades returns." Tyler stepped forward, the blade glowing so brightly now that it cast blue shadows across the atrium. "I am not your enemy unless you make me so, but I will protect this place and everyone in it." Through the tactical crown, Tyler sensed movement from the docking bays. The new arrivals had boarded the museum and were making their way toward the atrium. Humans, mostly, but a few other species as well, all carrying dormant Andoran DNA, all responding to his call. The Valoth commander assessed the situation, calculating his diminishing odds. "This is not over, King of Blades," he growled, before activating his personal teleporter and vanishing in a flash of light. With their leader gone, the remaining Valoth warriors lowered their weapons, accepting defeat. Through the tactical crown, Tyler could see the battle in space turning decisively against the Valoth fleet as more ships with Andoran signatures arrived. As security forces moved in to secure the surrendering Valoth, the doors to the atrium opened to admit the first of the responders to Tyler's call. They were ordinary people, a pilot, a teacher, a doctor, a mechanic, but all had felt the pull of the Harmony Sphere, the awakening of something long dormant in their blood. They stared at Tyler in his glowing Andoran armor, the ancient blade still pulsing with power in his hand. And one by one, they knelt, acknowledging what the weapons had already proclaimed. Dr. Barrett pushed through the crowd, her eyes wide with wonder. "It worked," she breathed. "You called them, and they came." Tyler nodded, still processing the enormity of what had happened. "The blade didn't just choose me," he said. "It chose all of us. Descendants of the Andarans, scattered across the stars, living as 100 different species." "What happens now?" asked the security chief, looking uneasily at the kneeling humans. Tyler looked down at the blade, feeling its ancient consciousness merging with his own. The knowledge of the Andarans, their rise, their fall, their decision to hide their weapons and change their very nature to prevent another catastrophe, flowed through him. "Now," he said, raising the blade so that its light illuminated the atrium, "we remember who we are, and we decide what kind of kings we want to be." Outside the windows of the museum, The stars seemed to pulse in rhythm with the blade, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for the answer. In the days that followed the Battle of the Museum, as it came to be known, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from all major species gathered to discuss the implications of what had occurred. The awakening of Andoran technology, the revelation that humans carried Andoran DNA, and perhaps most concerning of all, the emergence of a new king of blades. Tyler stood before the council, still adorned in the ancient armor that now seemed a part of him. The blade remained in his hand, its glow dimmed but ever present. Behind him stood 24 humans and near-humans who had responded to his call, ordinary people until the dormant Andoran genes in their blood had awakened. The council recognizes Tyler Grant, wielder of the Andoran blade, announced the Grand Mediator, a celestial whose crystalline body refracted light in hypnotic patterns. You stand before us as both miracle and potential catastrophe. The weapons that have acknowledged you as king once brought destruction to half the galaxy. What assurance can you offer that history will not repeat itself? Tyler stepped forward, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon him. The tactical crown still enhanced his perception, allowing him to read the subtle signs of fear, curiosity, and calculation in the assembled delegates. I offer no absolute assurances, Tyler replied, his voice carrying effortlessly through the vast chamber. The Andarans fell because they believed power alone guaranteed peace. I was a janitor before I was a king. I've spent my life cleaning up others' messes, not creating them. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Zavarian ambassador, the same one whose delegation had inadvertently triggered Tyler's transformation, rose to speak. Pretty words, but meaningless. Humans have always sought dominance beyond their capabilities. Now they possess the most dangerous weapons ever created. The council must confiscate these artifacts immediately. Confiscation is impossible, Dr. Barrett interjected from her position beside Tyler. In the aftermath of the battle, she had revealed herself as more than just a curator. She was a historian who had spent decades tracking the Andoran diaspora, suspecting that humans might carry their legacy. The artifacts have bonded to him at a molecular level. They cannot be removed without killing him. Then perhaps that is what must be done, the Zavarian said coldly. Before anyone could respond, the blade in Tyler's hand pulsed with energy. Every light in the council chamber dimmed momentarily, and a wave of something like static electricity passed through the room. When it cleared, holographic projections had appeared around the chamber, images from the Andoran past, playing out like windows into history. The blade wishes to speak, Tyler said, understanding flowing through his connection with the ancient weapon. The holograms showed the rise of the Andoran civilization, their discovery of the unique metal that would become their signature weapons, their expansion across the stars, and the gradual corruption of their leadership as power bred arrogance. The final images were devastating. Worlds destroyed, stars collapsed, and finally, the decision of the last true Andoran king to end the cycle. The voice that had proclaimed Tyler king now spoke again, this time heard by all present. We chose extinction over tyranny. We scattered our seed among the stars, removing the gene that allows connection to our weapons. Only in greatest need would the dormant genome reactivate. The council chamber was silent, delegates transfixed by the ancient consciousness addressing them. The Valeth seek the weapons as the corrupt Andarans once did, to dominate, not protect. The blade chooses differently. It chooses one who serves. The projections faded, leaving the chamber in silence. Tyler felt the blade's consciousness recede, having delivered its message. The Grand Mediator's crystalline form pulsed with complex patterns as it processed what had been revealed. It seems the Andarans themselves implemented safeguards against misuse of their technology. The question remains, what do you intend to do with this power, Tyler Grant? Tyler looked down at the blade, then at the humans who had answered his call, ordinary people thrust into an extraordinary situation. He thought about his years as a janitor, invisible to those around him, and the strange twist of fate that had transformed him into someone who could no longer be ignored. "I intend to protect," he said simply. "Not just humanity, but all who need protection. The Andoran weapons will not be used for conquest. We have learned that lesson at too high a cost." Before the council could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. The Grand Mediator received an urgent communication, its crystalline body flashing red with alarm. "The Valoth fleet has returned," it announced. "Not just a scouting force this time, but their main armada. They've bypassed our outer defenses and are on course for this station. Evacuation protocols are now in effect." Panic swept through the council chamber as delegates rushed toward emergency transporters. The security forces moved to create order, but the fear was palpable. Through the tactical crown, Tyler could see the approaching Valoth fleet. Hundreds of warships advancing in perfect formation, with a massive dreadnought at their center. Even with the awakened Andoran technology, he knew they couldn't fight such a force directly. "We need to buy time for the evacuation," he said to his companions. "And we need a plan." One of the humans who had answered his call stepped forward, a woman named Maya Foster, who had been an astrophysicist before the Harmony Sphere had awakened her heritage. "I've been studying the Andoran technology since I arrived," she said. "There's something about the blade and the other artifacts. They don't just channel energy, they manipulate space-time on a quantum level. That's how the cloak bends light, how the gauntlets concentrate force." Tyler nodded, feeling the truth of her words through his connection with the blade. "What are you suggesting?" Maya's eyes gleamed with the excitement of discovery. "If we combine the artifact's power, we might be able to create a temporal displacement field, essentially a bubble of slowed time around the Valoth fleet. It won't stop them permanently, but it could give the council time to evacuate and organize a proper defense." "Can we do that without harming the Valoth?" Tyler asked. "They may be invaders, but I won't be responsible for genocide." "The field would be temporary," Maya assured him. "Hours for us would be seconds for them. No permanent damage." Tyler turned to the Grand Mediator, who had remained at its post despite the evacuation. "We need access to the station's central power core. We can slow the Valoth advance, but we need time to set up." The Mediator's crystalline form pulsed with decision patterns. "Granted. But know this, King of Blades. If you betray this trust, if you use this power for conquest rather than protection, every force in the galaxy will unite against you." Tyler met the Mediator's gaze unflinchingly. "I was nobody until a week ago. I have no desire to rule anything. But I will not stand by while innocents are threatened." The Mediator nodded and provided the necessary clearances. As the council chamber emptied, Tyler and his companions made their way to the station's core, a massive chamber where artificial singularities provided the enormous power needed to maintain the facility. Maya worked quickly, interfacing with the station's systems while Tyler and the others prepared the Andoran artifacts. Each person who had answered Tyler's call now carried at least one ancient device that had awakened to their touch, not as powerful as the blade, but formidable nonetheless. Through the tactical crown, Tyler monitored the Valoth fleet's approach. They would be in firing range in less than 10 minutes. Not enough time for a full evacuation. "We're ready," Maya announced finally. "Each of us needs to focus our artifact's energy on the central node. Tyler, the blade is the key. It will coordinate and amplify our combined power." Tyler nodded, taking position at the center of the formation they had created. "Everyone, focus on protection, not destruction." The Andarans fell when they forgot the difference. As the Valoth fleet entered firing range, Tyler raised the blade. The ancient weapon pulsed with blinding light as it connected with the other artifacts, creating a network of energy that flowed through the humans and into the station's power core. Tyler closed his eyes, focusing his will through the blade. He pictured the space around the Valoth fleet, visualized time itself flowing like a river, and imagined creating a gentle eddy, a place where the current slowed but didn't stop. The power core hummed with increasing energy. Alarms blared as the station's systems detected power levels rising beyond safety parameters. Through the tactical crown, Tyler could see the Valoth dreadnought preparing its main weapon, a planet killer that could reduce the Council station to atoms. "Now," he commanded, and brought the blade down in a slashing motion. Power surged through the network of artifacts, through the humans wielding them, and out through the station's main deflector array. A pulse of blue-white energy shot forth, expanding into a sphere that engulfed the entire Valoth fleet. On the monitoring screens, the Valoth ships seemed to freeze in place, their energy readings dropping to near zero. "It worked," Maya breathed, checking the readings. "They're experiencing time at approximately 1/10,000th of normal speed. What's seconds for them will be days for us." Tyler felt the strain of maintaining the field through the blade. It was taxing but sustainable. "How long can we hold this? With the station's power supporting us?" "At least 72 hours, Maya calculated. More than enough time for reinforcements to arrive. The Grand Mediator entered the core chamber, its crystalline form pulsing with what Tyler now recognized as approval patterns. "The Council is impressed, King of Blades. You've protected us without bloodshed." Tyler lowered the blade slightly, maintaining the field but reducing the power drain. "I'm not interested in being called king. And this is only a temporary solution. The Valoth will be back, and they're just one thread among many." "What do you propose?" the mediator asked. Tyler looked at his companions, humans from different walks of life, united by their awakened heritage and their choice to answer the call. The Andarans scattered their bloodline as a safeguard, ensuring their weapons couldn't be used unless there was genuine need. "I think we should honor that wisdom." He turned back to the mediator. "We won't form a new Andaran empire. No armies, no conquest. Instead, we'll establish a response force, guardians who come together only when needed, then return to their normal lives." "Guardians," the mediator repeated, considering the concept. "Not kings or conquerors." "Exactly," Tyler said. "The galaxy doesn't need another military power. It needs protectors who understand the true cost of using power." The mediator's crystalline form shimmered with decision patterns. "The Council may accept such an arrangement, with proper oversight and limitations." Tyler nodded. "We welcome oversight." The Andarans fell when they placed themselves beyond accountability. As they spoke, more Council ships arrived, surrounding the time-locked Valoth fleet. With the immediate crisis contained, Tyler and his companions maintained the temporal field while diplomats and military strategists developed a long-term response to the Valoth threat. 3 days later, with Galactic Council forces fully deployed and prepared, Tyler and his team released the temporal field. The Valoth, experiencing only seconds of subjective time, found themselves suddenly surrounded by an overwhelming force. The Valoth commander, faced with certain defeat, opened communications. On the main view screen of the council chamber, his reptilian face appeared, scales flushed with anger. "This trickery changes nothing," he hissed. "The prophecy has been fulfilled," Tyler interrupted, stepping into view. "The King of Blades has returned, but not as conqueror, as guardian." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. The texts speak of domination, of an empire reborn." "Your texts were written by those who feared the Andarans," Tyler replied. "They saw only what they expected to see, a reflection of their own desire for power. The true purpose of these weapons, of this power, is protection." To demonstrate, Tyler raised the blade. Instead of attacking, he channeled its energy differently, creating a holographic display of the Andaran home system, long thought destroyed, but actually hidden behind a cosmic veil that had made it appear as empty space for 10,000 years. "There," Tyler said, pointing to a particular planet. "The last Andaran sanctuary. Not an empire, but a single world where those who renounced war have lived in peace for millennia, watching and waiting. They seeded their bloodline throughout the galaxy not to rebuild their dominion, but to ensure that if darkness came again, there would be those who could stand against it." The Valoth commander stared at the coordinates, confusion evident in his reptilian features. "If this is true, then all our preparations, our interpretations, were based on incomplete information," Tyler finished for him. You're not the first to misunderstand the Andoran legacy, nor will you be the last. But now you have a choice. Continue this path of conquest and face certain defeat, or reconsider what power is truly for. The commander was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke, his voice heavy with the weight of revelation. We will withdraw, but this matter is not settled. The Valoth Council must consider these revelations. Consider carefully, Tyler advised. The Guardians will be watching. As the Valoth fleet retreated under heavy escort, the Galactic Council reconvened to address the new reality they faced. The revelation of living Andarans, the awakening of their technology, and the emergence of human guardians with access to some of the most powerful weapons ever created had fundamentally altered the balance of power. In the council chamber, Tyler stood once more before the assembled delegates, but this time not as an accused. The blade remained at his side, now a symbol of both power and responsibility. The crisis has passed, the Grand Mediator acknowledged, thanks to your intervention. But many questions remain unanswered. What exactly are these guardians you propose? How will they be governed? And what assurances do we have that they will not become the very threat they claim to stand against? Tyler looked at his companions before responding. We propose a simple covenant. Those with awakened Andoran heritage will return to their normal lives, keeping their artifacts with them, but using them only in genuine need. We will establish no permanent base, claim no territory, and form no government. When a threat arises that conventional forces cannot handle, we will respond, and then disappear again. Like a myth, mused the mediator. Exactly like a myth, Tyler agreed. The most effective guardian is the one you never have to see, because their very existence prevents conflict. And who determines when intervention is necessary? Challenged the Zavarian ambassador, still suspicious. Tyler touched the blade, feeling its ancient consciousness respond. The artifacts themselves have a form of awareness. They activate fully only in the presence of genuine need, a failsafe the last Andoran king built into them. He raised the blade slightly, and its glow intensified. When the blade fully awakened in the museum, it wasn't random. The Valoth invasion fleet was already approaching. The weapons knew before we did. Dr. Barrett stepped forward, adding her academic perspective. The historical record supports this. Throughout galactic history, there have been instances of mysterious interventions when extinction-level threats emerged, incidents attributed to luck or cosmic coincidence, but which aligned perfectly with the Andoran guardianship protocol. The council debated long into the night, weighing concerns against necessities. Some delegates demanded the artifacts be destroyed, others sought to exploit them, and a few recognized the wisdom in Tyler's proposal. Finally, as the debate reached its most heated point, the blade in Tyler's hand pulsed once, and a single word echoed through the minds of all present. Choose. Silence fell over the chamber as the delegates realized they were being addressed by the ancient consciousness within the weapon itself. The Grand Mediator's crystalline form shimmered with decision patterns. It seems we are at a crossroads of history. The choice before us is not whether to allow these guardians to exist. They already do. The choice is whether to work with them or against them. After another hour of deliberation, the council reached its decision. The guardians would be permitted to exist, neither sanctioned nor opposed by official policy. They would operate in the shadows, intervening only when absolutely necessary, and disappearing afterward. As the council session concluded, Tyler found himself standing on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. Dr. Barrett joined him, her aged face reflecting the starlight. So, she said, not a king after all. Tyler smiled slightly. No, something better, I think. Or at least something more honest. A janitor who cleans up the biggest messes in the galaxy, she suggested with a hint of humor. Something like that. Tyler looked down at the blade, still glowing softly in his hand. I can feel them out there, you know. Others with the dormant gene, waiting to be awakened if needed. Thousands, maybe millions, scattered across countless worlds. A safeguard against extinction, Dr. Barrett nodded. The Andarans were wiser than anyone knew. Not just against extinction, Tyler corrected. against our worst instincts. The desire to dominate, to control, to place ourselves above others. The blade doesn't just choose someone who can wield power. It chooses someone who understands why they shouldn't. As if in response, the blade's glow pulsed gently. Through his connection with it, Tyler sensed approval. "What will you do now?" Dr. Barrett asked. "You can hardly go back to mopping floors at the museum." Tyler considered the question. The museum had been severely damaged in the Valoth attack, though most of the artifacts had survived. His old life was gone, not just his job, but his anonymity, his simplicity. "I was thinking of becoming a teacher," he said finally. "Somewhere quiet, where I can help others understand the past so we don't repeat it. The blade will let me know if I'm needed elsewhere." Dr. Barrett smiled. "I think the Andarans would approve." As they spoke, Maya Foster approached, her face alight with discovery. "Tyler, I've been analyzing the data from the temporal displacement field. There's something you should see." She activated a holographic display showing the energy patterns they had created. The field didn't just slow time. It created a pocket of altered space-time that could potentially be used for faster-than-light travel without the limitations of conventional drives. Tyler studied the display, the tactical crown enhancing his understanding. "You're saying we could revolutionize interstellar travel?" "Exactly," Maya nodded excitedly. "This could connect the galaxy in ways we've never imagined. No more isolated colonies, no more years-long journeys between systems." Tyler considered the implications. Such technology could unite civilizations, prevent resource wars, allow rapid response to natural disasters. But it could also be weaponized, used to deploy invasion forces instantly, or escape consequences. "We need to approach this carefully," he said finally. "Share the research with the Council, but with safeguards. The technology should be available to all species equally, with built-in limitations that prevent military applications." Maya nodded in understanding. "I'll start working on it." As she left, Tyler turned back to the stars. Through the tactical crown, he could see far beyond normal human perception, the intricate dance of stellar bodies, the subtle currents of cosmic radiation, the hidden patterns that connected all things. "What does it feel like?" Dr. Barrett asked softly. "To be connected to something so ancient and powerful?" Tyler considered the question. "Like remembering something I never knew I'd forgotten. Like waking up from a dream to find that reality is more wondrous than anything I could have imagined." He looked down at his hand, where the blade's glow had become almost an extension of his own life force. "But also like carrying a great responsibility. These weapons, this power, they're meant to protect life, not rule it. Every time I use them, I have to remember that." Dr. Barrett placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "That's why the blade chose you, I think. Not because you were special, but because you never thought you were." A communication alert chimed softly. One of the humans who had answered Tyler's call, a pilot named Caleb Walker, appeared on the nearby screen. "Tyler, we've received a distress signal from the Tanarian colony in the Vega system. Some kind of temporal anomaly is threatening to collapse their sun. Local authorities are evacuating, but they can't get everyone out in time." Tyler nodded, already feeling the blade responding to the genuine need. "Alert the others. We leave in 20 minutes. As Caleb acknowledged and signed off, Tyler turned to Dr. Barrett. "Duty calls." She smiled in understanding. "The Guardian's work is never done." "No," Tyler agreed, as the Andaran armor began to materialize around him once more, responding to his will. "But neither is the Janitor's." With a final nod to Dr. Barrett, Tyler headed for the docking bay where the others would be gathering. The blade hummed with purpose in his hand, its glow intensifying as it sensed the coming challenge. He was no longer just Tyler Grant, human janitor. He was no longer just the king of blades. He was something new, a guardian of life in all its forms, wielding ancient power with modern wisdom. As he walked, the blade's consciousness touched his mind one final time, showing him not the past, but a possible future. A galaxy where different species worked together, where power served rather than dominated, where the mistakes of the Andarans were remembered and not repeated. It was a future worth fighting for, worth protecting. worth cleaning up every mess that threatened it. And as the Guardian ship prepared for departure, Tyler smiled at the irony. In the end, he was still a janitor after all, just with better equipment and a much bigger floor to mop. 6 months later, rumors spread across the galaxy of mysterious interventions when disaster struck. Temporal anomalies resolved, hostile invasions thwarted, endangered species rescued from dying worlds. Witnesses described humans wielding impossible technology, appearing when needed most and vanishing afterward. The Galactic Council neither confirmed nor denied these stories. Official records listed natural phenomena, statistical anomalies, or unexplained cosmic events. But across countless worlds, people looked to the stars with new hope, knowing that someone was watching, someone was waiting, someone would come if needed. On a small agricultural world at the edge of settled space, a school teacher finished his day's lessons on galactic history. As the children filed out, one young girl lingered. "Mr. Grant," she asked, her eyes bright with curiosity, "is it true what they say about the Guardians?" Tyler smiled, his hand briefly touching the simple bracelet he wore. The Andoran blade, transformed into an inconspicuous form for daily life. "What do you think, Lily?" "I think," she said with the seriousness only a child can muster, "that someone has to clean up the big messes. Just like you make us clean up our small ones." Tyler laughed, a warm sound in the quiet classroom. "Very wise. Now run along. Your parents will be waiting." As she skipped away, Tyler turned to the window, looking up at the afternoon sky where the first stars were becoming visible. The bracelet on his wrist warmed slightly. Not an emergency, just a reminder of connection to something greater. Somewhere out there, Maya was revolutionizing space travel with Andaran-inspired technology. Caleb was mapping unexplored regions with his enhanced ship. Others were healing, building, teaching, creating, all while carrying their secret heritage and their readiness to respond when needed. Tyler gathered his teaching materials and headed for the door. Tonight was his turn to host the local community dinner, a simple gathering of neighbors sharing food and conversation. Tomorrow he would grade papers, tend his garden, and continue the quiet life he had chosen. Until the blade called again. Until the next mess needed cleaning. Until the stars aligned once more. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.